Hi guys, it's Jess from Honest Fiction, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I am going to be sharing all of the fantasy romance books I want to read in 2024. Alright guys, so here's the deal. Every time one of you recommends I pick up a book, I add it to a spreadsheet, and I have my spreadsheet sorted by genres, and I realized the fantasy romance one was getting a little bit out of control. So I figured I would talk about all of the fantasy romance books that have been recommended that I pick up in 2024. Now, I have about 40 books on that list, so I tried to narrow it down to the really popular books that I've had a few different people recommend I pick up. So these are the books I really want to read this year. Hopefully, I will be picking up most of these within the next few months, and I am so excited. So all of these recommendations will be spoiler-free. I'll just give you an idea of what each book is about. And yeah, if you're unfamiliar with my channel, I post new videos every Wednesday and Sunday. If you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. You can also hit that notification bell to be notified whenever I post new bookish content. You can also check out my Instagram, Goodreads, and Patreon, all linked down below. With all that out of the way, let's talk about these fantasy romance books. So starting off, we have Spark of the Everflame, and this is by Penn. I have been seeing this book everywhere recently. I know April from Happily Ever April recently read it. I've also had a few subscribers message me and say I need to pick this up ASAP. So I believe this is following a girl that lives in this world where the gods have taken over and they have sent their children to rule different parts of the world. Now, our main character hates where she is living and is really hoping for change, and then her mother ends up going missing. So she has to join this group called The Descended, and I essentially find out what exactly happened to her mother, and it sounds really good. I believe this is the first book in a series. I know the second book either just came out or is about to be released, but I cannot wait to pick this up. So I'm hoping to read this towards the end of March. My TBR is a bit out of control, but I've heard such good things, and this should be a really fun time. And the next book is actually my Patreon book club pick for March. So if you're unfamiliar with my Patreon, I have it linked down in the description below. We pick a different fantasy romance every month, and then we buddy read it and have a live show early in the next month to discuss it. So my patrons picked Curse of the Thorn King, and I'm so excited because it is by Lisette Marshall, one of my favorite authors. She wrote the Court of Blood and Bindings fantasy romance series, which is phenomenal. I still have to read the third book. I was waiting for the audio. However, I love that series, so I know this is going to be amazing. It is a Beauty and the Beast reimagining involving Fae. We're following this girl who is about to have all of her dreams come true, but she has to do one last mission, and that is to kill the king of the Fae. And when she gets there to kill him, she ends up being captured instead. And apparently she's trapped in this sentient castle, and it has all of these nods to the original Beauty and the Beast, but it has Fae, which makes it even better. So I cannot wait to read this. I will definitely be reading it in March since it is our book club pick, but this should be really, really good. And next up is actually a YA fantasy romance. So we have The Crimson Moth, and this is about a enemies to lovers, witch and witch hunter. So it's definitely giving me Serpent and Dove by Shelby Mahurin vibes. And I loved the first book in that series, so I'm very interested to see how I feel about this. I've seen a few TikToks of people saying they really enjoyed this, so I'm intrigued. I know that YA has been very hit or miss with me. I think the last YA fantasy I really, really enjoyed was The Ballad of Never After. So hopefully I'll love this just as much. But this is the Fairy Loot Special Edition, and as always, it is stunning, and I am hoping to pick this up some point in April. And next up is a lesser-known YA fantasy. However, the person that recommended it, anytime they recommend me a book, it jumps to the top of my TBR, only because they have never steered me wrong, so you know who you are. If you are watching this, thank you so much for all of your recs. But it is Shattered Kingdom, and apparently this is great for people that are fans of Throne of Glass because the main character is compared to Aelin, and Aelin is my favorite character in all of SJM. I just love her so much, her strength, her wit, everything. So I cannot wait to read this. So this is following a girl that apparently was taken from her family and when she was 10 years old and then forced to work for the person that stole her. And I believe she is going to try to somehow save her kingdom, but sounds really good. I know that plot was very, very vague. I'm trying not to look too much into books because I keep spoiling books for myself, and I'd like to be somewhat surprised. But yeah, just the fact that the main character is compared to Aelin, I know I'm gonna love it. And next up is The Everking by L.J. Andrews. If you watched my March TBR, this book was featured. I know it's going to be a 5-star read. Everyone I know who has read this has absolutely loved it. But I believe this is following a girl that accidentally releases this person that was kept imprisoned under the water by her father. And then the person that she releases ends up wanting to use her to get revenge on her father and I think her family. But this has sirens, it has fae, it has pirates, it has Vikings, it has everything I love, plus revenge. Sounds so good. So I will definitely be reading this in March. I have to finish the book I'm currently reading, and then this is next up, but I am so excited to jump into this book. And next up, we have A Fate Inked It in Blood by Danielle L. Jensen. This was one of my most anticipated releases for 2024, and it is finally out. So this is following a girl who is married to this terrible husband that she despises, and he ends up betraying her, and then she is forced to fight to the death, where she reveals that she actually has a drop of goddess blood that allows her to repel any attack against her. So I know I am going to love this book. I love Danielle L. Jensen's writing. She's the same author that wrote The Bridge Kingdom, and I cannot wait to read an adult fantasy romance by her. So I will also be reading this in March, and I am so excited. All right, so this next book, realistically, I don't think I'm going to be reading in 2024, only because I don't think the audiobook is going to be released, and I tried reading this physically, and although the prose are beautiful, the writing is very flowery, and I need an audiobook for it. So it is When the Moon Hatched, and it's by Sarah A. Parker. All I know about this book is, one, it has dragons. It also is unbelievably unique. It doesn't rely super heavily on tropes. I have had 2 people tell me that this is a very unique and just beautiful and amazing story. One person said they liked it better than ACOTAR, so I am so intrigued. However, I've had another friend that DNF'd this book, so I don't really know where I'm gonna fall, but I'm very curious. And I don't know, I just really hope the audiobook comes out soon. So once again, audiobook gods, please, I need to read this. I need to see what all the hype is about, and I need to see if it's as amazing as everyone is saying. And next up is another book that I am still waiting for the audiobook to be released. It is Helfyre. Now, I've owned a physical copy of this book for over a year, and I keep checking to see if there's an audiobook in production. I'm hoping there will be soon. But this is following a girl that lives in, the world of light, if that makes sense, and she ends up dropping down into this dark world where she meets a shadow demon, and they end up striking up a bargain where they are stuck together for 7 days, and during those 7 days, there are some feelings that end up happening that neither expected, and then once the bargain is over, for some reason, the light creature might not be able to return to the light world, and it kind of goes from there. But I've heard this actually has really good mental health representation, and I thought it was super spicy, but now I'm reading some reviews saying that this isn't as spicy as some people were discussing. So I'm very excited to pick this up once again, really hoping for an audiobook ASAP. And next up we have The City of Stardust. This is a Fairy Loot special edition, and I feel like they did an amazing job. This is probably one of the prettiest books that I own, but this is essentially following this girl that lives in a society where people are trying to break a curse, and if they fail in breaking the curse, they disappear and are never seen again. So our main character's mother apparently traveled out of this community to try to break the curse, and she hasn't been seen. So our main character decides she is going to try to go find her, and the story goes from there. Once again, I've heard a lot of mixed reviews. I've had one person tell me that they adored this book and I need to read it as soon as possible. I had another person say that it was very slow paced and they weren't a huge fan. So reading is subjective. I'm very interested to see where I'm gonna fall, but I will probably be picking this up in April or May just because I don't hear a lot of people talking about it, but still the plot sounds really good. And next up is Faebound. So this is following 2 elvish sisters that live in this elvish community. One of them is a soldier and the other one is a seer. Well, the soldier does something that has her excommunicated from the elves, and her sister decides to come with her. So while they are trying to survive, they end up stumbling upon a fae court. Now, it is known that the fae have no longer existed in this world, so they are very surprised, and the story kind of goes from there. I don't know how to feel about this because all of my friends that have read this have not rated it very high. However, overall on Goodreads, it has a pretty high rating. So I definitely want to give this a try. I've read another book by this author, and I think I ended up rating it like 3.75. So I'm not really sure how I'm going to feel, but I'm very excited to give it a try. And next up is Zodiac Academy 9. So this is releasing at the end of April. And this is following two twin girls. On their 18th birthday, they find out that they are actually Fae royalty, and in order to gain their inheritance, they have to go to the Zodiac Academy. Now, when they get to the Zodiac Academy, they soon find out that there are already these celestial heirs that are ruling the school, and they want no part of these Vega twins. And the story goes from there. So the first book is very much a bully romance, and as the story progresses, it becomes so epic. The romances in this series are amazing. Like, I read the first 3 books in about 4 days, and they are quite chunky. Now, I will say, as the series has progressed, I have liked the books less and less, starting with book 6. Every book after book 6, I have not really been a fan of. I feel like this series is being drawn out way longer than necessary, and I really hope that this is the last and final book in the series, and it just has an amazing conclusion, because if it's announced there's going to be more books after this next book, I'm DNFing the series. I just cannot commit to reading. It's been drawn out long enough. Personally, is my feelings. If you are still into it, that is awesome, and I'm really happy for you. But anyway, I do plan on reading book 9, but book 9 will be the last Zodiac Academy book that I read. And next up, we have A Court This Cruel and Lovely, and I feel like I've talked about this book in so many videos, and I still haven't read it. February really got away from me, and this book is rather chunky, so I'm hoping to read it in March. But this is following a girl that lives in this world where if someone is born with power, the gods take it, and if they are able to maintain that power, then they are seen as being corrupt and they are killed. So our main character actually does harbor this power, and when it is found out, she has to leave the society she is in and escape for her life, where she runs into a mercenary who had almost killed her years prior, and they have to work together, and he kind of teaches her how to use her magic. But I know so many people who have loved this first book. I know Carrie from the channel Book for Romance has a spoiler-free review video that you can check out, but I will definitely be reading this, hopefully within the next 2 months, but I'm really hoping to read it in March. And next up is another book that I feel like I've had in multiple videos. So we have A Fragile Enchantment. This is a YA fantasy that I've had a few people tell me that they really enjoyed. I said in another video, it kind of reminded me of The Wedding Planner with Jennifer Lopez, but this is following a girl that has the magical ability to knit emotions and memories into fabric. Unfortunately, for some reason, this magic is also killing her, but she does jump at the opportunity to make a wedding dress for one of the nobles in her village. And then apparently a romance kind of happens between her and said noble that's supposed to get married, and there's a gossip columnist involved, and it sounds really good, really dramatic. So I will hopefully be picking this up soon. And next up, we have A Ship of Bones and Teeth by Karina Halley. So this was actually gifted to me from Isa from Fun Fantasy Books, so thank you so much, Isa. I just think this edition is gorgeous. Now, I started this book, I got about halfway in, I was reading it physically, and I honestly might continue this physically just because Karina Halley has a tendency to take a very long time to put out her audiobooks. I am talking years between books. So I'll probably end up reading this physically. But anyway, this is a dark Little Mermaid reimagining. We're following the siren who ends up giving up her voice in order to become human. Unfortunately, unlike the classic tale, it doesn't really work out for her, and Prince Eric ends up being this complete asshole. And she has to survive living with this abusive husband, and then she is captured by a pirate who takes over the boat that they are on, and the story goes from there, and I believe it's a romance between her and the pirate. But it sounds so good, so I will definitely be reading this soon. It also kind of gives me like summer vibes, so maybe I won't be reading it that soon. I'll be reading it probably closer to the summer, but either way, I am so excited to pick this up. And last up is Heavenly Bodies, and this was purchased for me by Tori. I believe this was a Christmas gift, so thank you so much, Tori. I cannot wait to read this. I know she really enjoyed it. But this is following a girl that lives in a world where the stars control the universe, and there is a prophecy saying that she will fall in love with a star, and that will somehow end the world. So that is all I really know. Now, I do know from a lot of you, because I have it in my notes on that spreadsheet I was talking about, that a lot of people did not love the second book in this series, so I don't know how I'm gonna feel about it. Hopefully, I'm okay with it, but I've had a lot of people tell me that they love this first book, but then they either DNF'd the series, or the series kind of went downhill after it. So if you read this book, please let me know down in the comments below. What do you feel? Have you continued with the series? And I am very intrigued. Once again, I am just still waiting for an audiobook. Alright guys, those were some of the fantasy romances that I want to read in 2024 that were recommended by you guys. And I would also like to say a huge thank you to my Paladin protectors, Amanda, Erin, and Leslie. Thank you guys so much for supporting my channel. And I said this already, I post new videos every Wednesday and Sunday, so if you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. I will see you all next week. Bye!